Hi everyone, and welcome to our weekly 30-minute webinar. This is Matt Sykes and Jim Schultens here with Variphy, a couple of systems engineers over here. Okay, before we get started today, I would like to make mention, let me drag this out of the way. I would like to make mention that we are close to releasing our Variphy Cube iOS analytics offering for general availability. That will be available in our Variphy 12.3 GA release due out towards the end of September. It is currently in EFT or early field trials at the moment, but if a beta is of any interest to you, just let us know. Okay, for today's webinar, we are going to focus on the new extension detail and groupings in upcoming Variphy 12.3 release. We're going to start off with a quick overview of our company and what we do. We'll jump into a live demo where Jim will guide us through this new functionality coming up soon. We'll pause for Q&A and get some of your questions answered. During the demo, if you have any questions, make sure to ask them in the Q&A panel in the bottom right corner of the screen, not the WebEx chat, but the Q&A panel. After Q&A, we will reward one lucky attendee with a $50 Amazon gift card. So hang around and see if you may have won. Okay, a quick overview of Variphy. Variphy is the preferred analytics and management solution for Cisco collaboration. We provide industry-leading CDR reporting and call analytics, customizable dashboard and widgets, UCCX reporting, remote phone control, change management, dial plan management. But today we're going to focus on CDR extension details and groupings. If you have any other questions on any of our other features, we can most certainly take those offline and get those answered for you. Okay, before we get started, we want to announce again that Variphy now offers a new service offering that provides managed consulting services to our customers. Variphy SE or System Engineer team will be engaged on a one-on-one basis to remotely provide additional consulting, unassisted reporting, dashboarding configurations, and system monitoring assistance. This is a service that provides a dedicated Variphy SE to do all the heavy lifting of report creations and all those mundane tasks that you may not have time to do. For more information, please contact us and we'd be glad to speak with you more in depth about this new service offering. All right, so let's get into the wild. Jim, I'm going to pass the ball over to you and you can go ahead and get the show on the road, sir.
All right, thank you, sir.
Once again, anyone questions during the session, please feel free to answer them in the present them in the Q&A panel of the WebEx, not the chat. Thank you much.
All right, thanks everyone for joining on our weekly webinar. As Matt said, my name is Jim and I'm an SE here at Variphy. And today, like he said, we're going to cover some extension detail and grouping, something new with Variphy. It's going to be out in 12.3 GA, which should be released around the end of September. So we're really excited about some of the changes coming up, and especially this grouping. It's going to be very beneficial to a lot of you and a lot of our customers. I'm just going to go through a basic extension detail report. This is real basic. I'm going to look for all calls to or from an extension and just go over some highlights there. If I could type, does help. And to get all calls, I'm going to use what the Matt refers to as the triple header: calling party, original, or final call party number. And I'm just going to throw extension in there, 2210. View results. This history screen is great for just a quick history, quick look at, hey, this is what I want, and then I can create a report from that if I want to. But you'll notice there's a lot of detailed fields in here. You know, date, time, origination, call duration, calling party field, and it keeps going on and on. And the nice thing about this is from here you can add any detailed field you want. We've got a whole bunch of them to choose from, and I'm sure you've gone through that before. Like for instance, ring time. If I want to add ring time here and move it up to call duration, click on save, and boom, it's right there right away. So that's a nice feature here. And one other thing I want to point out is I've added call scenario types. I use this quite a bit. It's a great tool to be able to see what happened with the call and how we're considering this call. You know, like this call is connected and it went to voicemail. And I can see that here by it was connected to 2210, but then it went to my voicemail. So, and the normal call clearing, some of you may be familiar with that. It's either on the originating cause code or terminating cause code sign. It tells you who hung up the phone first. So if it's on if normal call clearing is showing on the originating cause code side, the originator of the call. If it's on terminating, then the terminating side or the destination side hung up first. One other thing I want to point out here is in here you see non-secured. We have the ability now to show whether a call was secure or non-secure or encrypted or not. And you can run reports on that and filter on that as well if you need to be. So like I said, this is very helpful for me at least. Hopefully you guys can make use of that too, the call scenario types. All right, so that's enough about the details, pretty basic stuff. I'm gonna go into my reports here. I've created a bunch of reports and focus on the grouping. And one of the things that we get asked a lot and is how many extensions are not being used. We can do that with devices and user IDs or users, and we do have a great knowledge base article. I believe we also have a webinar that was done on that for underutilized phones or end users. Now we've expanded it out to extensions. We can do that on directory numbers. So in here, this report here is focusing on, I've got device pools set up for Wisconsin. So my search set, I'm going to look for originating or terminating device pool for Wisconsin. And for my grouping, I'm going to say the key here is set this minimum total call count to 0 and the maximum to 0. We don't want to see any DNs with calls. So we want to set both of these to 0. And my grouping search set, which this is new for directory numbers. It's always been there, but we've enhanced it. So I'm going to group on the originating or terminating device pool. And you'll see when I run this report, and search time, I'm just going to do previous week. Obviously, if you're looking for dormant extensions, you're going to want to expand that time frame. Get a bigger chunk of time. But these are the extensions that are in the Wisconsin device pool that haven't been used in the last week. As you can see, I've got all zeros. These are obviously going to be all zeros, not needed. We can remove those if need be. But the key here is, this is showing, hey, these extensions have not been used in the last week. If I ran it for a month or 6 months, then the list may be smaller, but I can still see which extensions have not been used in that time frame. Good for some cleanup, or if you're going to reassign extensions or assign extensions to new employees or so forth. So this report here, that was focusing on the device pool. This one here, I'm going to focus on any 4-digit extension. So let's pretend my extensions are all 4 digits. I'm going to put the triple header in here, the calling party, original or final call party. And my grouping, I'm going to group by the same. And my search set will be anything that is 4 digits. It's a calling, original, or final. That way I get everything covered as far as how those calls can happen. So once I run that, I'm going to get a bigger list because being my lab, there's not a lot of activity going on. So I do have a lot of dormant extensions, but you'll see, decides to come up here. This is my list of all my 4-digit extensions that haven't had any calls in the last week. One thing I want to point out here is the partition. Not too many people use partitions anymore, but if you do, and you have some duplicates like, different partitions like this 1002 extension is in the directory number partition, and it's also in a none. So I can break those down, and that is done in the grouping by setting this ignore partition and grouping. If I enable this ignore partition and grouping, and then run this report again, you're going to see that 1002 extension is kind of combined. So we're ignoring the partitions and putting both those, as one entity. You'll see there's only one there, and the column for the partitions is gone. But that can be used in any of the groupings I'm going to show you going forward. The next report we're going to focus on, some of this is device pools. So, these reports I just showed you was no activity. Now we're going to look at some calls. So in this device pool for Wisconsin again, and my search set is going to use the same device pool, originating or terminating, and grouping by calling party, original, final call party. So all calls for that. And I'm not going to, for this, I don't have the search set turned on. So this is kind of how it appears today if you were to run a report like this. And as you'll see, get this report run, it is a bit messy and confusing to a lot of people. We've had a lot of questions about it and wondering why all this extra noise basically is showing up in the report. And it's because we're telling it to group by calling party, original call party, or final call party, which is what it's doing, but it's including all these extras. These are probably caller IDs that are coming in to one of these extensions, but we're grouping it by that. So we've got, grouping by the extension and grouping by here. So, like I said, it's confusing to a lot of customers. They don't want to see that. So that's where this grouping search comes in. We roll down to the details of this, you'll see the calling party is definitely this number, and the final call party is 2910, and I've got the device pool of Wisconsin. So that's where it's picking that up, but it's grouping it by calling party number. And I know my eyes are going a little bit. And Zoom seems to have messed up. We'll see if we can get that back there. So what we're going to do now is we're going to turn on that grouping. I want to see all extensions with calls, so I'm going to set this minimum to 1. I don't want to see any without any calls. And I'm going to group by the originating or terminating CUCM device pool. Same search set as my previous report. And when I run that, search set turned on. And this is very helpful, to eliminate all the extra noise. And there we go. These are the extensions. It still includes those calls from those numbers from the outside, from the caller IDs, but it groups them by these extensions there in the device pool. So with this, it queries call manager for any DNs in that device pool, and then it correlates those to the call records and groups them by only the directory numbers for that device pool. So it's a lot cleaner, it's a lot more easy to understand, and it gives you what you're looking for. You're not looking for all those other extra numbers, caller IDs, extra numbers that it was grouping by. So now we're going to change it up a little bit. We're going to similar thing, but we're going to go by device type. And again, this is just another iteration of that same report, but a different way of getting the data. So I want to look at anything with this device type of 7841 and all 3 of them. I'm not going to group again, and you'll see how all the extra data is in there. So just like before, we see a lot of extra data. So if I go back to my report, device type, and go to my grouping, this time I'm going to include DNs that have 0 calls as well, but I'm going to limit it to just the device 7841s. And when I run that report, you'll see that it filters out all the extra calls or the grouping and just focuses on what I'm looking for, which is these extensions. And you notice that also got some that have 0 calls listed here because that's what I asked for. And you know, you can include details, which is going to show, you know, you can add your device types, both on the originating and terminating. So you can see all these calls have a device type either on the originating end or the terminating end of what I'm looking for. All right, so one last thing I want to show here as far as the reports. Let's say we don't care about device types, we're not using device pools, I just want to look at extensions. So extension range of say 6,000. My search set will be the 6XXX, and you know, don't forget that the capital X's are wildcards, so anything that equals 6XXX, 6,000, 6200, 6999 will be included in this. And this time I'm going to focus just on the calling party, so just calls placed by those extensions. And no grouping for the beginning report here. On that. It's going to give me what I'm looking for. But let's say, for example, I don't want to see any of the 6.2, or I just want to focus on 6.0XX extension. Again, going back to the partition, this I had the partitions disabled, so we're seeing everything with the, we're not ignoring the partitions, we're showing them. I don't think I have any, oh, I do have one there, that's not a duplicate, my eyes are going bad. But anyway, it's got the partitions there. So then we can go into our grouping and same information, calling party here. Our search set is looking for the 6XXX, but we're going to group, and I only want to see in my grouping 60XX numbers. So we'll go ahead and run that report. As a reminder, you know, here's what we were getting before. Anything that had calls on the 60 or any 6XXX, and this I've also included the extensions without any calls, but it's only the 60 range. And so now that's the reporting. You might wonder, can we do this with widgets as well? Yes, we can. Webinar dashboard. So I basically recreated the reports in a widget format. And my shameless plug for our block party coming up. Hope you guys can all join us. And it's going to be a lot of fun and a lot of learning and a lot of new stuff coming down the pike. Telling you about. But you know, these widgets are going to show basically the same thing in the reports, but it's more, you know, current. This would be current day information, so I can keep this refreshing, and throughout the day I'll get increased call counts for these numbers. I make a number added if, you know, if a new call comes into a different number that's in that device pool or through these extensions. So great thing to be able to monitor on a dashboard in the widget form. And you know, like I said, you could do it any way you can do it with reports. You can do it in the widgets. Just kind of going back to the beginning with the details, I just created these detail type widgets if you want to see details in your widgets. Don't forget that any of these headers can be changed in our custom labels. We've got a great webinar and or knowledge base on that. And you may not want to say call scenario types. You may want to say information, call information, whatever you want to change it to. So that is all the content I have, Matt. Did we get any questions that came in?
Yes, we did, and great presentation on the dormancy on the DNs. I'm certainly going to use that. Yeah. I'm going to use that one myself.
I figure a lot of people will use that. It's been
definitely. I build those for the device dormancy or underutilization and users all the time. So now for DNs, this is going to be more powerful.
Yep.
Okay, good. The question that was proposed to us that I believe that you actually did discover right here was Tracy was asking, can I use grouping search sets in the widgets with these new groupings?
Certainly, as I just showed. Yep. We can create those widgets just like the reports. Like I said, it's more not exact real time, but it's current day information that you can monitor throughout the day. Yeah, great question.
Okay. So we have one last question here from Matthias. He is says looking for more grouping than what we seem to be showcasing as filtering. Can we show more examples of multi-level grouping? Well, certainly we can, Matthias. And if Jim were to hop back to one of his reports, we don't necessarily need to do this on the fly, excuse me, but where he was adding in those grouping search sets within his reports, he was only entertaining one for these examples. Certainly we can have much more than just one.
Right. Yeah, we can add more to this, or we can add another grouping search set.
Exactly, which would give that summarized kind of level of multi-layer grouping.
Right. Yeah, I just kind of went with the basics here, but just to get the idea across. And
exactly. Yeah. Also, depending on obviously we're mainly focusing on DN groupings that's new here in the 12.3 upcoming release. But if you scroll to the top, you will notice there is a potential secondary groupings on some of these as well, based off of your primary grouping type. Now the DN grouping primary doesn't support that at the moment, but the users in the device do. So do know there are other sub groupings that can be entertained off of other ones outside of the DNs. But for the DNs, correct. Yeah, the search set definition will be paramount for those. Okay, great question, Matthias. All right, does anyone else have any other questions at the moment? I will give maybe 5-6 seconds for anyone to chat into the Q&A panel. Go right ahead and do so. And if not, I will be stealing control back from Jim here momentarily. Okay. All right, so I will go ahead and steal. Sorry, it's back to you, Jim. Or Jim, just want to stop your share.
Yep,
that may help. Thank you, sir. Screen shares. Okay, so, excuse me. All right, so I suppose the moment we've all been waiting for, time to award this week's Amazon gift card. And the winner is, if no one just saw it, is Helen Talbot. Woo!
All right,
congratulations,
Helen.
Congrats, Helen. We will be in contact with your account manager and reach out to you shortly to get you paid after this session. Okay, next week's webinar. Thank you everyone for coming to today's session here. That was very beneficial. Jim, thank you so much. But do want to plug next week's webinar where we're going to be covering Planet Variphy, which is our new user community. So next week on the 1st, Victor and Phil will be going over Planet Variphy, which is our new user community where you can connect with other users, stay informed on the latest news, and learn about more of our products. Phil and, as mentioned, Phil and Vic will take you through a tour through the community. So please feel free to go ahead and register for that. But also, as Jim kind of plugged with his announcement of the day widget previously, September 15th, in place of our Wednesday weekly webinar, we will be having our now annual Verify Live event block party. So please feel free to go ahead and register for that through our webinar section, which I can certainly point out to you. We will be awarding over 6,000 prizes. We'll have product horizon discussions, technical deep dives, and as always, tons of fun stuff here for our viewing pleasures. So certainly you can view that, you can view that on the verify.com/company/webinars page, and feel free to go ahead and register for the upcoming block party on the 15th of September. So thank you everyone for your time today, and enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Take care all. Thank you.